Well, since I show a lot of depictions of bicycles on my silver updates, and I like bicycles and motorcycles, I wanted to show you something. What typically wears out is the middle chain ring. This one, the middle chain ring. Now, it's easy to remove with Allen bolts, except you got to take the crank arm off, and that's the trick. And typically, what I use on a chain is this stuff. It's not chain lube, it's door lube, automatic transmission fluid, additive. Because it has something in it, I don't know, it's some type of zinc or something. It seems to really hold up on a chain. It works really good in automatic transmissions too, but it seems to hold up on a chain a long time. So the first thing you do is you pop off this cap. Now this is a plastic cap. Sometimes they got caps that screw in here and you got to unscrew them, but then you have a 14mm bolt inside. That's not the trick. This thing is actually press fitted on, and I'll show you how to get it off. You take it off with a 14mm wrench, and like usually I hold this bar right here, you know, at the top one. At the same time I'm holding this one. It usually breaks. Usually this breaks pretty easy, you know, so you just unscrew it. And next you put the tool in there. I'll show you how you put the tool in there. Now this is the tool itself. You notice, you know, as you tighten it, if you were tightening this, turning this lever, like I'm just turning the wheel, it would press this piece out. You see that coming out? Now, when you put it in here, I make sure it's got a lot of lube on it so it turns easy. You know, you don't want to lube the crank itself though, because it's a press fit. But I make sure it's backed out really far, and then you start screwing it into here. Okay, make sure. You know, sometimes these threads get a little boogered up, so you gotta watch. That's why they got the cap on there. You always keep that cap on there. And sometimes the there it goes. Sometimes you make sure it's screwed all the way in. So that's screwed all the way in. You know, this has got play. And then you start turning this, and it should press out as it goes down. You'll hit some kind of resistance pretty soon. So, and then I have to hold on, you know, I have to take the camera off. I have to hold this and press it out, maybe back this out a little bit, but just initially to break it through, I like having this screwed in all the way so it engages all threads. And like again, that's why you keep that cap on there. And sometimes it doesn't have a plastic cap, it has a threaded cap, and you take it out. So that's just like that dust cover keeps these threads from getting screwed up. Okay, the other trick to do with this is use the brake. You got brakes in the back wheel, so you're turning this so it's actually like the same as you're pedaling, you know. Actually it works. I think there's a reverse thread on the other side. So I apply the brakes on here. This is actually, this bike's actually a little backwards, but it's good for a motorcycle. The front brake is on the right side, and the back brake is on the left side. I kind of like it for that reason, though, because it's the same as the bike. The motorcycle, the front brake is on the right side. So keep turning this, and it presses out. And I used a breaker bar on it because actually this thing was pretty tight. And you know, if you're pressing this with your hand, you know, you don't want to bend this down. It's got a lot of strength this way. It's Park Tools that makes these things. They're pretty strong. Then it comes off, right? So then all you got to do is you take off your ring gear. It's just some Allen wrenches, no big deal. Now, when you put this back on, you obviously don't need the tool, and you don't want to put any oil on that. Now, you just want to tighten it down, the bolt down. It's a 14mm bolt, right? But you notice this is steel. This is steel. This is hardened steel. You know, the actual crank pin, whatever you call that thing, the bottom bracket. And this is aluminum. So you don't want to take this off a lot, because what happens after a while, this will get rounded out. And you want to carry a wrench with you and go for a ride and tighten this up a few times. Leave the dust cover off. Take this 14mm wrench with you and tighten it up a few times. Now the one that actually gives you a problem sometimes is the left one. The left one can actually get loose. This one, you know, if you take it off, you could take it off more times than the left one. You shouldn't take off the left one much. The one with the crank gears, because it's more reinforced, it's like when you're pedaling this, The chain is kind of holding everything together. This one actually has more force on it going in and out like that. This one can get screwed up if you take it off too much. So watch out with that, and don't put any lube on this part when it press fits. You want an interference fit, and you want to check it a few times. But usually the one, if any of them comes loose, it's usually this left one. That's why I don't like taking that one off, but you usually don't have to do it. But this one, you have to take off a lot of times. You can see these gears are worn down a little bit. This one, I'm not sure if these are probably broken teeth on this because this is the middle chain ring, and the middle chain ring you use a lot. So a lot of times when you put a new chain on it, it doesn't match up right with the chain itself, the ring gear, and it'll skip because the new chain is in spec and the ring gear is, worn down. So you wind up having to change both of them. Typically, you don't have to change the little one or the big one because it seems like the middle one's the one you mainly use a lot more. And sometimes you have to change the cluster. But you got to remember, you're always on this. You could be shifting all through these gears. So, like in other words, these are all getting all. You got 7 to 9 gears there, or whatever it is. This one's got 7. It's an older one, but this ring actually gets a lot of use. So maybe the first time you change the chain, you don't need to change this, but the second time, yeah. And the lube I like to use, I use like door lube. I don't know, it's got that Teflon crap in it, but it's also got, it's a ZR3, but it's also got some kind of zinc. Like racing lube, I think it has zinc in it. And I noticed even on the transmission on my motorcycle, I put an ounce of this stuff in there, just an ounce. That's on a Sportster, which shares the transmission with the primary case. And I know a lot of Harley people go, horrors, why are you putting that in there? You should just use Harley lube. I put an ounce of this, and actually I can always find neutral at a light. It shifts like butter, just an ounce. This seems to really stick to the chain really good, and it's pretty cheap compared to like specialized chain lube. And this chain, you can see it's rusty, but you know what? It works. Chains are tough. I know they got the belts on the bikes, and they got belts on even on bicycles now. They got them on motorcycles. I like the chain, and sometimes you're better off not changing anything because this one don't skip. Even with these teeth all screwed up like that, it's because it's worn into this worn out chain. I just keep it lubed, but that's how you would change it. You'd use this special tool by Park, and it presses it out. So that's the deal. And again, this is the tool by Park. You notice, like, as if I was turning this crank, turning this arm around, this presses in. In other words, when I first put it in, you want this all the way out like this, and you want this screwed into here, right, all the way. Then as you turn this around, this starts pressing it out. Requires some force though, so you might, like I said, you use the brake, the back brake, to hold it in place. And I use this bar. I put a bar on the end of it. It was that tight because in this, this is pretty thin. When you're pressing it hard with your hand, it's not much leverage, and it came right off. So, but again, make sure you check the tightness on this thing as you ride it, because if it comes loose and it starts wobbling, you could screw this up, then you'll have to replace it. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure it's tight, and you want to ride it a mile, check it again, ride it 10 miles, check it again, ride it 20 miles, check it again. Then it should be solid. It should be no problem.